Okay, so welcome everybody. Today's webinar is about building an engagement engine for your FE college, focused specifically on further education colleges today. That's the type of organization that we've worked with mostly over the last couple of years and who we believe we can help. And today we've got Lucy from R&N Group here. Good to see you, Lucy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And yeah, just want to go through how to better engage students. And Lucy, you've been looking at it from a user journey point of view and from existing student point of view, new student point of view, but also from relationships with employers.
Absolutely, yes.
How the student's journey is actually improved based on your relationship with them. So just a brief overview. It might be Purlos has worked with R&N Group for nearly a couple of years now. You have actually both of our products. One is the Convert product for admissions, one is the Destinations product. Nick Dale in your learner services team is actually the key person driving that.
He is indeed, yes.
I don't know if you've had any involvement in that or you've heard anything about it. Do you have any idea about that project and how it's running, or is it something that's going on in the background behind?
It's going on in the background, and in the next month or so I'll be asking for update information so we can look at our marketing strategy going forward. So yeah, it will form a key part of my information going forward. Yeah.
Perfect. So just to give everybody a brief overview, very brief, I don't want to hear from me too much, but I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purlos. We've been going a couple of years. We just brought on Rob Bristow, who left as the president of Pearson as one of our advisors. Martin Dole's been working with us for the last 2 years, who used to be CEO of VAC. We're up to 20 staff now and growing, and we've got 50 clients in the further education market. 20% of those clients have our new Destinations product as well. And Lucy, it would be great to get a bit of an overview of you and your role and your aims.
Well, so my role, I've only been here 2 months. I've only been in this sector for 2 months. I previously was in the independent education sector for 12 years doing marketing and admissions. I wanted to change, and this job came up and I was like, they do these jobs in this sector? That's amazing. Can't wait. So started, and I'm just loving it. And my role really at the moment is looking at all aspects of the admissions process, the recruitment process for learners, and looking at our learner enrichment and various journeys to look at a marketing strategy for the group for the next 5 years to impact sales, recruitment, and brand perception.
Sales, recruitment, brand perception.
Brand, yeah.
So what would you say your kind of main KPIs are? Yeah.
So I have KPIs set out already in the strategic development plan, which anyone can see on the R&N Group website. They are basically sales targets for 2025 across the 4 main areas of 16 to 18-year-olds, HE, which is our university provision, adult learners, and apprentices as well. And they are set, so the marketing strategy will basically show how we can make those objectives.
And in terms of long versus short term, everybody at the moment, you can see the kind of financial markets taking a dip, and from our side, I think potentially that's not such a negative bit of news for further education compared to other markets like retail.
Yeah.
Because if people do lose their jobs, which looks like it might happen, and free up the recruitment market a little bit, which would be good for FE as well. Mm-hmm. I guess that further education will have other people to retrain and support to getting back into work. But short term versus long term, we've seen over the last couple of years a lot of colleges kind of slightly under-resourced in terms of staff and scrabbling around to do as much as they possibly can. How do you kind of manage short-term versus long-term importance?
That's a really good question, David, because a lot of the time I think I come into these roles and I do feel there's a massive short-termist approach to everything. And I'm a big believer that your sales growth is actually obtained through really good relationship building. And relationship building takes time, and it involves excellent journeys, ensuring the touch points with the customers at whatever stage they're at are really good and really positive. So I try to create a balance of relationship building and short-term targets. And as long as you can get that balance worked out right, then you can achieve without losing sight of year on year versus 5 years time.
Yep, great. So the agenda today is to look at current admissions methods, what you do versus what the potential is in the future, changing student behavior. Is it changing or not? Nudge messaging, which is a core kind of methodology that we use, where it's useful, where it's not. Just a quick brief overview of the college case study, which is R&N Group. And we'll look at measuring success. So again, KPIs, data, I would probably suggest that probably 99% of the colleges that we've worked with don't know all the key data points because they've got so much other tasks and jobs to jump to. And because sometimes it's hard to get data, passing it back and forth between themselves and between the government. So that's quite difficult. And then I'll give you a 2-minute look at the Purlos dashboard as well.
Brilliant.
So in terms of admissions methods, I'll tell you what the kind of general application process that we see is, and you can tell me if it's the same or different. So student applies on a website of college. Sometimes there'll be a government portal, but usually direct through the website of the college. And then that student would be invited in for an interview, phone interviews, usually during lockdown, but now face-to-face as much as possible, trying to get them in. And there's not 100% turn up to those interviews, which is an area we can work on. But at those interviews, usually given a conditional offer, depending on the college. And then at that point, once that student leaves, you get a follow-up by email. And that email would be probably through Tribal, Pro Solutions, maybe Microsoft Dynamics or the Capita system. And some of those offers would get accepted by email, some wouldn't. Some of those emails wouldn't get picked up. Some text or phone calls would be the next stage to try and follow up on those students. And then either you just hope as many students as possible turn up on day one, or you'd be spending a lot of time ringing, texting, and following people up, trying to get hold of them. So that's kind of the general application process we see. Are there any differences from your college? Any similarities there?
No, that's pretty much a really good way of explaining it in terms of a standard process in terms of the admissions. So yeah, you've got that all there right.
Where would you think that potentially there might be some, issues around the application process without kind of going into, disparaging yourself too much?
So I think one of the things is about the sort of the relationship with curriculum. So for us, when we are selling ourselves to potential students, I think we forget that not only are we trying to gain their sort of their acceptance of coming to this college, but we are also being interviewed by them. We have got to obviously compete against we have some amazing competitors around this area. So we've got to be really, really good and really, really strong at the interview stage. So actually one of the areas I'm looking at the moment is looking at that interview stage and looking at in T&D days, looking at, it sounds odd, but actually talking to curriculum staff about being the interviewer and being the interviewee and giving that training so they can be upbeat and really, really positive. Some colleges I know don't even have curriculum staff doing interviews at all. It's just the IAG staff, which is really interesting. They're very busy people, curriculum. They are mainly teaching staff. So why would you expect them to be able to do other things? I always big believer, play to your skill sets in life. So we are sort of looking at these different options going forward. So I think the interview is actually quite crucial, and it's got to be face-to-face and it's got to be individual. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. I think it's key.
Yep. And I guess one area that we've seen is there's recruitment and then there's conversion.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can tell me about what trends you might have seen over the last couple of years since you've been there, Lucy, but generally what we've seen is applications last year jumped up. Everybody got really confident, and most of the colleges we worked with didn't quite hit their enrollment numbers and maybe got a bit overly confident.
Absolutely.
Trends like teacher assessed grades and sixth forms potentially holding on some of the students. What do you feel might be some of the larger macro trends this year?
Well, obviously we don't have the tags this year, so it's really, really interesting because we think that could be potentially a really supportive thing going forward. However, we are actually discussing as a group the economy for our students general. So for instance, I was doing some focus groups with students yesterday to find out various things, and then one of them was telling me they work 5 days a week to put food on the table for their family, and 2 days they're in college. And I see, if the economy gets it is, that we could be then competing with the job market generally, which is obviously very buoyant at the moment. So I think that's something we need to be considering over the next 2, 3, or however many years, the situation with the job market. So that is something I need to be looking at in terms of strategic objectives going forward.
Yeah. So I know we've got a couple of people from Wales and Scotland that will watch this. And I think from my point of view, I've been to present to some of the colleges at the Colleges Wales event. We're going to present at the CDN event up in Scotland, and then we also work with a couple of Northern Irish colleges. There's a few differences, and I would probably suggest one of them is there's a little bit more green grass between each college. Sometimes they compete, sometimes there's less competition. It seems to be quite similar to some of the kind of land-based colleges and colleges in the countryside over here, like Shrewsbury, that we work with.
Right.
Sometimes not competing as much against, local colleges like Barnsley in your area or other colleges, but more about trying to convert as many students from maybe a limited pool. So what do you see more important, recruitment or conversion?
Interesting. I see conversion as more important, because you could have 20 really rubbish leads and then have 10 leads that will convert. So in the end, as I've said, I think I've spoken about this before to you actually, it's not about the applications that come in. It's absolutely about what we do with those applications, getting them to enroll and convert and accept and start. That is the most important part of it.
Yep. So application numbers seem to be up in general last year. They seem to, for most people we work with, have kind of leveled off and not increased as much. General demographics show that there's, in England anyway, 16 to 19-year-old demographic is going to increase. There's going to be 90,000 extra students in FE in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That should have a positive effect, but we're not seeing as much of that effect yet as we should.
No.
So conversion should be quite important. But if that does proliferate, then there's going to be the issue of what is already maybe 10 to 15% of staff leaving FE in the last year. There's going to be an issue around not being able to handle that amount of students and that amount of queries and giving a high enough level of student support. So potentially there's some need for automation there as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Now we are going to have to start to align, because I am from a school of thought where I am all about bespoke. I'm all about excellent response times. These create the marginal gains to grow your recruitment. But at this sort of, before I was dealing with smaller scale organizations, at this scale, we're going to have to look at a more automated approach to things. So absolutely, what Purlos has done for us has allowed us to be more responsive. And I was actually doing focus groups yesterday with students who said our admissions process response times were dire 2 years ago, but now fantastic. They're saying, everything's really, really good. And that's really because of Purlos, and really helps us because of that continual engagement. And we are going to, as the growth applications grow, whether they're good or bad applications, we need to respond to them. So we are going to have to look at increasing our sort of automated responsiveness. Yes.
Yep. I think general positive things is the demographic of 16 to 19 is increasing. It will be different per different area, but in general it is. Also, teacher assessed grades were maybe a little bit kind last year, and that's probably like slightly reverse. But we did talk to a few colleges recently about T levels, which is a great opportunity, but some of the sixth forms are potentially going to be more competitive on T level as well, which might be a negative thing. So applications are obviously important, but if you can improve your conversions, you potentially reduce your work quite
absolutely. And then your retention going through as well. That's key. I mean, that's the given in the end to keep them.
We did have a bit of feedback from a college yesterday that we work with in England, and their applicants aren't as high as they were last year. In fact, what we've done is we've actually tried to be skeptical and interrogate some of the applicants in terms of their interest and quality, asking that applicant if they're actually interested in coming to this college, or if there's a better college that they're more keen on. Turns out that that was the case. So they've actually got rid of quite a lot of applications, which is a bit, I don't know, it's a bit depressing, I guess, but
at least you have the ones left over that you can really follow up on, and that you can actually get something out of, and that's key. You don't want to be wasting time on data you're not going to be able to follow through on. So that's useful in the end.
Well, that's what they were doing the year before working with us, and now they have fewer applications, but they're stronger, and they're actually increasing marketing spend to offset that. So
far better. Applications
is an important point, but I think conversion is important. Interviews wise, how do you run interviews, and where could you maybe improve?
Well, that's the thing. So we have been doing them on the phone. We have been doing group interviews. And what we are looking at is a model where we are going towards bringing back IAGs, actually, so the information admissions guidance. It's really, really important that we separate out potentially our receptionists who are doing both, which is really difficult. And they're doing a good job, but they can be better. So splitting that off, bringing that back in, maybe allowing that first interview with the IAGs, and then going forward to sort of the curriculum side of things for specific areas. But we're also looking at half-termly taster days. We feel that bringing the students in, prospective learners, is absolutely the right way to go, to see and feel the place, because it's all about a feel. It's like walking to a house or anything like that. You've got to feel comfortable. So coming in it's going to be a really important part of that admissions process.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue we see is people don't always turn up to our interviews.
No.
For one of our colleges, which I won't mention, we got 47% of people who didn't turn up to 2 interviews to turn up to the 3rd one.
Right.
A lot of colleges don't like to talk about interviews as interviews, they're group events or they're group sessions. But the same issue happens, and a lot of the time it's not because they're not interested, but because they just need a better communications channel. In terms of teams, how focused are you on admissions, and how does admissions, marketing, and the other teams, how well do they work together?
That's a really good question. So, I mean, the learner recruitment team and the marketing team are quite separate, even though Nick and Naomi's our marketing manager, Nick's our learner recruitment manager, they work together very, very closely. But the teams don't. So one of my objectives actually is we are, one of our vision values here is one team. So I need to bring those 2 teams together because that's crucial. The learner recruitment team can give information, valuable information to the marketing team, and the marketing team can let the learner recruitment team know what's going on, what's going out, what campaigns are running. So there's that synergy going on. So I am trying to bring them a little bit closer together for the good of the sales and recruitment efforts that we need to be achieving.
Yeah, sometimes there's a potential culture issue, and culture's hard to change, right? So that kind of thing maybe can just be nudged over the long period, but we've definitely seen different teams being siloed and having different focuses. If they've got different targets, like why wouldn't they? So if you've got a marketing team focused on applications, and as soon as the applications are passed over to admissions, why would they keep focusing on it if they're not, targeted on it? And then it gets passed over to admissions, maybe with not as much communication or as nice a user journey as you said from one team to the other, and that's had some potentially degrading effects, and that's where we've supported some of our clients. Data wise, I always ask this question when I see a client for the first time: what information do you have on students dropping out?
That's interesting because that's a really big area obviously for RO4 is a really, really key part of our funding. So in terms of the dropout data, we are always on that. At the moment, we're looking at, for instance, renewal, so retention enrollment for this year, and looking at the numbers and asking the tutors all the time to give us that data. So I currently know approximately how many students will be rolling over, and we will be revising and looking at that all of the time. We also do surveys and sort of exit surveys, and we do learner surveys all the time to make sure, as I've been doing with the focus groups, the students, to find out what the issues are and try and resolve them to keep them, sort of engaged with what we're doing. And we're looking at our learner enrichment program hugely at the moment. So yeah, I think we could be better. I think anyone could be better in terms of retention, but yeah, I am aware that the numbers that we're looking at for next year. Yeah.
I guess what's the biggest thing we see on reasons? Most colleges would try and bring a few students to figure out why they have dropped out, or they might have focus groups. Focus groups sometimes can be quite small in numbers. The phone, sometimes it might take 20 calls to actually get the student to pick up the phone, but still useful. Most colleges would say the reason for dropout is competition, depending on where you're at. And that is in the top 3 of our risk drivers, but there's also course selection reasons. Anxiety and stress went from the 10th biggest risk to the 3rd over the last year, not surprisingly. Financial worries, employment issues, where their friends are going, travel as well, especially for rural colleges, and students before, when they might not have known that maybe you subsidized a bus route, they might just never get back in touch when they could have had a direct line straight into the college. So the 6-week period, we kind of talked about interviews. I talked to a college this week, and they were talking about doing phone interviews last year. They did phone interviews, got through thousands of them really quickly, and they had a bigger dropout during the 6-week period because they didn't get to see the college, they didn't get to see an AIG certified advisor, and even though they did convert, they started and enrolled, they dropped out in increasing numbers. So how do you look at the 6-week period and its importance, and how do you try and stop dropout?
Well, this is what we're actually working on at the moment. So we're working on that first week, and we're looking at our sort of what we call Wow Week here, in terms of the sort of like a Freshers Week in a sense. So we put that on, and we're looking on how we engage the students that week with all the activities, all the enrichment opportunities, you know, timetable, all those sorts of things they need to know, and making that a good start. I am going to be also looking at, and I've done this in previous organisations last 12 years, actual surveys in 3 or 4 weeks on to how people are actually feeling and how the admissions process was. You know, did they feel that the first week fulfilled their needs? Do they feel involved? Are they enjoying it? Have their tutors been in touch? All of these things are really, really important. So we will be ensuring that we try and keep that on. And I know that Purlos as well has, and I spoke to students today who said they got some great messaging through WhatsApp from Purlos actually at the beginning of the year to find out how they were doing. So we will run these side by side going forward for sure.
Yeah, great. I think the biggest feedback we have is that as soon as students start, there's only a limited number of staff to manage stuff non-digitally.
Yeah.
Go and tap on students' shoulders, see how they are. You know, there's only a limited number of staff, and there's a lot to do, managing timetables, running the courses. What about events? Obviously, very, very important. What different events are you running, and what are the most effective ones for you?
So again, we're doing a lot because we wanted to sort of improve upon last year. So we're looking at all the ways we can do that. So this year we're running 2 lots of taster events. We're doing taster events for prospective learners in the last sort of first week of July. So we have a restricted leave week, and all the staff will be around, and learners will come along. The assistant principals will welcome them. They'll go off to the areas they want to potentially study with, have lunch, which we're going to provide. In the afternoon, try some enrichment activities, and have that on site. And then we're going to do one in August too, a follow-up one. So hopefully these days, these fun days, interactive, engaging days, will allow our learners to feel part of the college here and feel this is a great place to come back to in September, after a second taste day to learn. So we're trialing these this year.
Right. Probably the main thing that we've done with events is improve turn-ups. But also, once somebody's filled out an application form, doing some kind of messaging and different bot flows for students to figure out a kind of heat map.
Yeah.
They filled out an application form, but how keen actually are they? So in terms of student behaviour, I know Joe's here on the call. I remember about a year and a bit ago that a couple of the Welsh colleges were saying that, you know, WhatsApp potentially they didn't talk to a few students and thought that they didn't use it, and there's definitely some really younger students who are using things like Snapchat, you know, TikTok became the most popular website in the world over Google this year. But how have you found all of your different systems? Because it's not as if you're just going to use one, and we would never suggest that.
It's interesting because I was talking to students today who don't follow any of our platforms, and it's something we've got to look at, because one student said, can you not communicate more and better? And I said, how? He goes, social media. And I'm like, do you follow our platforms? No. So it is really, I think the WhatsApp messaging service is really good at directing people to our student portal. That sort of, that interaction with web-based and WhatsApp and text messages is the best way to access them, you know, in this world we are in today. So yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's about what the best blend is of different students. What we find is, so for instance, a 16 to 19-year-old student is most likely to reply to us at 9:30 on a Friday night on the WhatsApp, 2 campaigns that have been designed to be hyper short. So you just have to come back with a quick digit. So for that group of student, that would be best. We've just added text to our system actually, but you know, for parents, we've just started to message parents, which we've never done with you. But there's some potential.
Absolutely agree.
Some potential there, I think, and they need more of a professional tone, slightly different wording, and sometimes different channels as well. You've also got to think about what is possible, right? So from a GDPR perspective, email, text, WhatsApp, it's all GDPR compliant, especially because we're post-application, and the students would sign up to your application terms and your data privacy policy. And there are companies around the world using WhatsApp where they're going one-to-one, and you need thousands of staff to be able to manage that. And also it's not GDPR compliant. You know, there is no business API for systems like TikTok, Snapchat. So you're never going to be able to do that, not legally anyway.
No.
Which is probably quite important for
yeah, very important
for a college. So this is just a bit of data from the last year or so. Social networks used by people 15 to 25 in the UK, 2022. YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. So that's, it's actually gone a little bit higher than that now, but it's the most used channel. In the UK, definitely. For instance, in America, they only use Instagram and text. They don't use WhatsApp as much, but in the West, everywhere from Europe over to East Asia, it's very, very popular. And some places taking over text and email. So nudge messaging. So this is pretty much what I was talking about earlier. So does this kind of mirror approximately your
absolutely, yeah, absolutely
process? So our approach to nudge messaging, half of our campaigns now are actually tailored, so you can set up and run your own campaigns based on your own wording, and half of them are based off templates which colleges use again and again. But students don't want too much communication, but they definitely want communication when there's something in it for them. So we see a few kind of key areas here. There's a few extras that aren't in here, but we're very good at getting a hold of hard to reach students that you might not reach in other channels. Our engagement is usually 5 times better than traditional methods, and our accuracy, because our digital assistant is half human and half digital, the accuracy is about 5 times as good as well. Mm-hmm. But going out to groups of people that you haven't been able to connect with. So for BMET in Birmingham, we went out to people who had half filled out their application forms and got 31% to fill them out, complete them within 3 days, which was great for filling up their funnel.
Yeah.
Event reminders for one of your events, we actually got an increased turn up of 98%. It was a taste today. That's not typical, but it was a pretty great result. And that's definitely a strong area. Mm. We were doing it during lockdown on sending out Teams links. And when somebody said at the last second, oh, this link doesn't work, we could go back and forward in a second on the system. One of the colleges, Bradford, we worked with, we actually went out and said, here's the 6 local competitors. Are we your top choice? Which was very good for highlighting the strength of those applications. Course selection is the second biggest dropout reason. It was 55% of our questions on the system around course, not surprisingly. A lot of students would end up applying for 3, 4, 5, 10 courses, which is difficult. So we try and funnel them down to their preferred one earlier rather than later. And then looking at chasing up people who don't turn up to enrollment is probably our single biggest success. And then during the 6-week period, we usually do these messages before the 6-week period, but we look at things like anxiety levels, swap, don't drop, and course selection. Yeah. And there's a load of other kind of messages that we do, but this is how we'd message students when they want to be messaged. So just give you a couple of examples. So we worked with Newham, and this is quite interesting because a lot of colleges, when they have students who have withdrawn or dropped out, they think there's no point. And we've had colleges go back out a year later and connect to students. But for Newham College, we've worked with them for over a year. They've signed up with us for 3 years. They sent us a list of students that had already withdrawn, 125 students that they were trying to email and phone and wasting a lot of time doing as well. And we actually got 66 of those students to re-enroll. Wow. But what was even better, because I met Sharon Cousins, who's the director of student services there. She works on the NAMS group as the governor, the National Association of Student Services group. Yeah. I asked her at the event a few months ago, and she said all of them stayed past the 6-week period because of that increased support. So you can see the kind of messages that we've set up here. Hey, student, everything okay? That would be a merge field. I've noticed you've missed enrollment. Do you want to enroll with us at X college? Yes, no, please reply 1, 2. I mean, you get that message in about a millisecond.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amazing.
This is one that we sent out for Nescott. So, hey, student, how do you feel about your course selection with Nescott College? 1, excited, 2, fine, 3, unsure, thinking about changing. And a lot of those people actually ended up speaking to an AIG certified advisor. Just reply with a 1, 2, or 3. And that highlighted a lot of people that may have dropped out during the 6-week period. That kind of brings us on to working with RNN. I guess, Lucy, you might not know in terms of detail exactly how it went, but you have both of our products now, so the Purlos Convert product and the Purlos Destinations product.
Yeah.
I guess what's quite important there, people watching the webinar probably won't understand what our Destinations product is. but I'll give a quick overview. So the admissions product is there to increase revenue for FE colleges and decrease dropout during the admissions process, but also the 6-week period. And the product is a human-backed digital assistant, and that would connect to applicants through WhatsApp rather than just email and phone. And then we would use AI to highlight which students are more likely to drop out and why. And the same technology is the backing for the destinations product. And the destinations products uses a human-backed digital assistant to go out to students after they've left and they haven't progressed. And this is to get a higher number of known destinations colleges. But more importantly, and what Ofsted are looking for now, is more information on the qualitative side, i.e. have the courses that you've been running actually ended up in a positive destination, usually a job. I know that the Greater London Authority right now is focusing on short courses, which, phone calling companies or your own tutors can't actually manage. Why I kind of bring that up is because we bookend the student journey at the start and the end, and now we've got the destination system. We've had people that have come through a full year now and they've recognized the admission system, and then we go back out to them when they've left the college for destinations data, and they recognize the WhatsApp chatbot. Our chatbot's actually called Jenny, and they recognize that, and that user journey is consistent. And that is something that's helped quite a lot.
Yeah.
Has Nick given you any indication of how the project's gone over the last year? Or?
Well, from what he's spoken to me and what I've seen looking at all the reports, it is absolutely brilliant in terms of uplift for us across everything. I think it's just really helped, and I've seen that with the focus groups with students, really helped in terms of the support that prospective learners get now compared to what they used to get, and that's all about responsiveness, and that's a really important part of it. And we've got more to learn, we've got more to do. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect, but in terms of that side of things, I couldn't be happier from the reports I've read, the leads we're getting, the sort of the responsiveness we've had, and the engagement from students and prospective learners has been absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I mean, for me, Purlos is a great system in terms of the student recruitment side of things.
I think you were I asked you to look at some of your demographics, but not everybody knows their local demographics. But did you get any insight into your local demographics?
I'm actually looking at a company I used to work with at the moment to look at our demographics, actually drill right down to postcode level where they are. In terms of our demographics generally.
Are you allowed to say who they are or not? Just in case other people could use. If not, don't worry.
I haven't got that yet. So I'm actually going to meet with this organisation I've worked with for my last 4 organisations before, who are brilliant at catchment area analysis, which is what we need basically. Great. So obviously we work with Vector and MZ, but what I'm looking for is a different who is our customer, and I have a strategy day on the 14th of June with the board about who is our customer. So it's going to be really important to look at that. So at the moment I can give an idea of, as you say, at the moment year 7, year 8 are hugely high because of the massive birth rates in 2010-11, and we'll see that come through in about 5 years time. Okay. But in between now and 5 years we've got, and we'll see us 5 years, we've got to do some work on various strands as well of the college to get there. But yeah, no, when I get some more demographic data, I'll definitely share that with you next time.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. So just brief overview. I mean, it was probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years or more actually ago that we started with R&M. I think typically it's the same as most colleges that work with us. The reasons they come on board is because their traditional methods don't always work. Email, phone, text. Text can be good in certain areas, but there's more engagement and back and forth on WhatsApp. The phone can also be good, but we're seeing increasingly younger students answering the phone less and less. And I guess there's a big time waste of ringing one student 20 times and not reaching them. Emails, pretty difficult to get all students to reply on in timely fashion. So that was the kind of problem. Old methods, quite labor intensive. Keep warm, generally quite difficult, a bit different to universities. So from November the 1st, you could have some really good students applying quite early, but they could have 8 months with not a lot of communication until September the 1st. Well, we can kind of outsource that for you, but we would come across as your college. So that was an issue that R&N had. I'm sure there might be companies like us in the future, but we're integrating into things like Tribal, Pro Solutions, and Dynamics. And yeah, I think we're trying to be quite unique. And I don't know, how do you see us? Like, what if you were to kind of say what we were as a company, what would you say?
I think you basically are an extension to our recruitment team, but it's a hybrid. So what you do is provide that responsiveness, but if a more sort of specific question came through, that comes back to the team. So you provide this hybrid function in terms of an extension of the learner recruitment team, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. That's good. I mean, different colleges have different benefits from working with us, but what Nick said, which I quite like his quote, it's up on the website, which he doesn't have a lot, he has a lot of unread emails in his inbox, but not a lot of unread WhatsApp messages. Kind of interesting. I mean, I know most people I do, but I know most people in FE have big inboxes.
Yes.
I think 950 was the last one that one of the directors I spoke to had.
Wow.
But yeah, this was one of the events we ran for you, and this isn't average, it's not that high, but one of the events we did get a 98% increased turn up. So this message was, hi student, we're delighted to invite you to one of the college taste sessions on event X at a time Y. The taste sessions will allow you to sample your chosen course, find out more about the college. If you haven't booked a place already, you can book your place here, which allows them to see a link or a booking link that they might not have got by email.
Yeah.
1, yes. 2, not sure. 3, no thanks. And people who aren't sure, you can invite them to further events as well.
Yeah.
Measuring success. I don't know if you know them, Lucy, you probably won't, but how well do you think your team knows the top 3 or 4 key stats? And yeah.
I think what we do is we focus on the sort of the lead side of things and what that's generated. And stats wise at the moment, I probably have to admit the team probably doesn't know that. What their job is just to keep on, turning those applications around and making sure we get to enrollment. But I, again, have to look at that more closely in terms of the marketing strategy going forward, and we'll be certainly doing that soon.
It's very easy to set targets and then either hit them or not and never look back and go, oh, did we or not? I mean, we've sometimes missed them, but we run something that Google runs called OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. And we like to, the general thing behind that is it's not a KPI. Did you hit a number? It's have you increased from X number to Y number? So is your conversion 45% and have you increased to 50%? And focusing on that increase is something that's worked quite well for some of our targets, but most colleges I spoke to didn't know the conversion rate, or they guessed it. The general numbers are between kind of 40 to 80, so quite a wide range. But obviously, if you get a 50% conversion rate, you will be spending twice as much time getting 2 new applicants rather than converting 1 extra person.
Indeed, yeah, we are working to 65% actually across 16 to 18s, and I think 55% for HE apprentices. Right. So that's looking at our conversion. That's the 65% is what we work towards generally.
Yeah, perfect. And just on the destination side, colleges can be again anything between kind of 40 and 80% known destinations, but Ofsted are looking for 80 to 85.
Are they? Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Just in terms of a benchmark, and I do know one college which is 95, and I don't know how they got there, but
wow.
Yeah, we'll be learning as much as we can, and hopefully supporting everybody else with that. Student NPS. Not a lot of colleges measure the Net Promoter Score. How do students actually find their course? We're finding that out for most of our clients, and they really like that. So getting some student feedback is actually quite good. And we've got an 8.4 NPS score for their for what they think of WhatsApp as a communications channel.
Brilliant.
Just a quick look. I think you've already seen this, Lucy. A few people watching would have seen it. The dashboard would show high-risk data. It shows it broken down by curriculum. It shows all the unresolved queries that Purlos doesn't answer. Purlos would answer 90% of repetitive queries, but some of the more complex, high-value ones would go back on the system for the admissions team to answer. And we also measure engagement level. There's a load more data points down in there. But this is a new feature as well, which we've recently released, which is the product roadmap. Biggest bit of feedback was that admissions teams are so busy that they would like to reduce the time spent on setting up campaigns. So this product roadmap, we already pre-fill it with 70 to 80% of campaigns that we know work. And then colleges would get an email a week before saying this campaign should be going out and get ready to send it. But that means you can set up 70 to 80% of the work that you need for the whole year ahead of time. And when you need to do some ad hoc work or events, you can do them when you need. And that's it. So thanks for coming today, Lucy.
I loved it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, really good, really interesting insight, specifically from your college as well. And hopefully we'll continue to work really well with you over the next few years. I will be sending this out to people, and hopefully they can kind of watch it at their leisure. But yeah, really appreciate it, and thanks.
No
thanks for coming.
problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, might just throw out for any questions, Joe. I don't know if you had any questions, or I don't know if you had any further ones, Lucy, or anybody else.
Just a question, I guess, around Welsh language, which I know we've talked about many months ago. Yep. But thinking about the requirements under sort of Welsh language standards, learners being able to choose their choice of language, how does that fit with Purlos? Are you able to take people down 2 different channels based on language preference?
Yeah, good question. So working with GLLM at the moment, getting over the Welsh language barrier isn't the easiest thing in the world, but every message would go out with a Welsh and English, Welsh first. So the messages would go out with both messages. And yeah, we would usually use the translation team of the college to set up pre-filled campaigns. What we do for all colleges is we set up a knowledge base. So we set up a knowledge base, which is where we write down and create, I don't know, maybe 100, 150 frequently asked questions that would get asked again and again of your team. And then we would create that in English and Welsh, and that will allow our team to answer those commonly asked questions as well. But yeah, and then on the destinations product, it's just a question set. There's, I don't know, maybe 50 questions based on whether you're NEET or you're an apprentice, or you've gone into further education, or you've got a job. But based on which flow you go into, that's a question set that we designed with about 20 colleges. That is all translatable just up front. And we would set that question set going from day one, and they would again get both questions in Welsh and English. But yeah, depending on where you are in Wales, normally we get about 90% of people saying they wanted to go forward in English after that. So we give them an option, just pick one to continue in English, 2 to continue in Welsh.
And then in terms of like just thinking about the, I don't know, like an open event where you're asking somebody if they're attending, they're not sure, or no, they're not attending. Is that the type of question that you can pose locally, that you could set up locally, or is there a requirement that we would come to somebody centrally and say, this is a workflow that we want to push in based on this? Like, so what flexibilities do people have with the product locally versus centrally?
Pretty flexible. So we just started working with Activate Learning, and a bit of a nightmare because they have 7 campuses. But RNN is a really good example as well. So you can kind of do what you want, but it depends how you want to come across. And a lot of colleges want to come across as individual campuses. Some colleges that want to consolidate their brand want to come across as that one brand. So Activate Learning is the brand that they want to come under. And then we would send a message out on WhatsApp, and it would have the Activate Learning logo and Activate Learning in the top as the title on the WhatsApp system. But underneath it would say, hi, it's Jenny, which is our admissions digital system from Crawley College, or the individual college. So that can be tailored. And then in terms of dashboard data, we can either have dashboard data per campus or college, or what's more common is to have an aggregated view of all of the conversions from all of the campuses, but just multiple people would have logins to it from different campuses. So it's flexible. Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for joining today. We'll be sending this out by email, and yeah, any more questions, feel free to email ask@purlos.com. Yeah, and thanks again, Lucy. Speak to you soon.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.